I'm Victor Normand, and this is the Insider's Guide to Real Estate, a program where we deal in all aspects of residential real estate. Today our topic is home staging. My guest, Faith Erickson, has been a home stager for the past 5 years. She's a member of the Real Estate Staging Association of Massachusetts, where she also serves as treasurer. So let's get right to it, and welcome, Faith.
Thank you, Victor. Nice to be here. Thank you.
So you and I have known each other, we've worked together, so I know a bit about home staging, but for homeowners who haven't placed their house on the market recently, staging is a concept they might not be completely familiar with.
Sure.
So aside from making the house look its best when you put it on the market, put a finer point on exactly what home staging is.
Okay. So home staging really is the process of preparing the home for sale. And by that I mean you would ready the home by doing small repairs, decluttering, cleaning, really just clearing the decks to make the house look neat and presentable. And then the showcasing is when the staging really comes in, and you would apply design principles. So you would have proper room flow of the furniture, proper color balance of the paint and fabric, and and proper lighting to really showcase that home.
Okay, well, let's talk about home staging first as a profession.
Mm-hmm.
What are the qualifications? If I were looking to hire a home stager, what would I be looking for in that person's background that might make me feel that they are someone I should take advice from?
Well, many stagers have a design background, and many don't. It's often a second career for many of us. And really there is no national accreditation or licensing board for home stagers at this particular moment. As you mentioned in your intro, I am a member of the Real Estate Staging Association, and it is a national organization. And most of us, if not all of us, have had training from a design center where the principles of home staging are, brought to you. That said, it's not like the National Association of Realtors. We don't have a licensing fee or licensing board. So what homeowners can do is really, it's smart to look online and look at particular home stagers in the area. You can Google them and look at portfolios, before and after photos, and to get a sense of what that particular stager's expertise is.
And also there's got to be some chemistry between
Yes.
the stager and the client, as
That's
with
right.
everything.
That's right.
So how does, so if I'm thinking of selling my home, and I've decorated my home within the past few years, and I think it looks pretty nice, how is staging different from home decorating?
So I like to tell my clients that the art of interior design is very personal. You're layering in fabrics and textures that are very particular to that homeowner. Staging is almost the reverse. You're editing out very personal items to make the home appeal to the broadest number of buyers. And it doesn't mean to, sort of whitewash the home. It just means that your home now is an asset that you're trying to sell, and you are trying to take out personal photos, edit out books, or very particular pieces of art or colors that are very specific to you. So where interior design is layering on, staging is somewhat editing away.
Okay, so it's good staging, well-staged houses when it has a broader appeal than,
Yes.
What you might do to your own personal home.
That's right.
And I look at staging, I take the word staging when I try to explain it and think of a theatrical stage where everything on the stage is designed to be evocative and not necessarily how you would actually place furniture or items in a home.
Right.
But you're trying to draw out some kind of an emotion. No one really lives in a staged home, in a sense.
Yes.
It's different than that. So, if someone thinks they really don't need a stager, or they've gone online and they've think they have some chops at it, what are the kinds of mistakes a homeowner is likely to make when they try to stage a home themselves?
I think it's really very basic. They see their home as very personal. They have years of memory there potentially. They've raised their children. It's very hard to be objective about your own home. So you might still leave too many books and artifacts in the bookcases. You might not paint that red kitchen. You might overlook home repairs, small home repairs, broken light switches, cracked window panes, things that we all walk by in our own homes every day. It's really beneficial to bring in a fresh pair of eyes to see the home as buyers see it, not as a particular homeowner sees it.
So real estate agents have pretty much up until this idea of staging has come along, have really been more hands-off with respect to how a home looks. We've dealt more with very practical things like making recommendations with respect to the roof or the heating system or really important aspects of the house. But home staging, again, is more visceral, it seems. That
Yes.
You're really trying to be evocative. So along those lines, so if we're talking about emotions or if we're talking about someone's attachment to a home, and what we say in real estate is that when it's a home until you put it on the market, then it's just a house.
Yes.
And trying to get that concept there. So you're dealing with, when you meet home sellers, you've got personalities to deal with. What's the challenge there?
Well, oftentimes people are very willing to have the help because they've lived in their homes for maybe 40 years. The husband and wife might see a stager a little differently, but the main point is to be reverent of every seller and to help them through the hurdle of this emotional process. We try to stress as stagers that buyers make a decision within 15 seconds of entering a home, typically, if they are going to make an offer. So you want to have that sort of serene model home feel, even if the home is 50 years old. Do your best. You want to highlight and showcase the functionality of the home and allow the buyer to feel the space. As far as personalities go, again, you just try to keep emotion out of the equation as best you can and to really listen and have reverence for those sellers.
Okay. So, and you might have, I'm sure that you have some clients who are very open to your suggestions, and then you have other clients that are really need to be convinced that staging is important.
Right.
And I'm sure there are times when you're dealing with both personalities at the same time.
Yes.
When you enter a home. So you mentioned 15 seconds to make a decision. What often happens when a house has been on the market, a homeowner might say, well, the buyers have to know all the features that are in my house, all the marble tiles in the bathroom or the state-of-the-art heating system, but you'd never get a chance to talk about those things if you can't get them through the front door.
That's right.
So in this 15 seconds, and they're coming through the front door, what are you likely to put in front of them?
Well, as you know, the first impression is that curb appeal. So the exterior of the home has to look as crisp and inviting as possible. And it also, as you know, online pictures, 90% of buyers are looking online before they make a decision to go into a home. So you want professional pictures that tell a story about the house. And then once you enter that door, you've got to have the house smelling clean, looking bright, opening up all your window shades, removing most window treatments. Not all, but most times you want to remove dated window treatments so that they get that wow sense when they enter.
It's important. But just as you've got 15 seconds to get somebody engaged in a house, you've got to do a sell job to get people engaged in your services.
Right.
So what are some of the very practical benefits of staging a home?
Well, I think that one of the things that I like to do is to provide a written report in my consultation so that a seller can go through and look at this report and understand on a room-by-room basis what needs to be done. And many stagers do this. It's something that takes the enormity out of the process. So you try to explain that to them and say you can take it one room at a time, one task at a time. And I think that's very valuable.
So what we try to do is to tell home sellers that our goal is to sell their house in the shortest period of time for the highest value.
Right.
So there's some statistics with respect to the benefits of home staging
Yes.
as it relates to home value and time on market.
Right. The most recent statistic that I read was that staged homes stay on the market 72% less time than a non-staged home. Buyers today want a turnkey home, and while many sellers say, well, I had to remove carpet and I had to peel wallpaper, today's buyer does not want to do that. And so the tough message is, if you don't want to do it, neither do the buyers.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so, and it's hard to deliver that message, but if you deliver it reverently, you know, they get it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's take a step back. You mentioned pictures. Now, you're likely to be hired in conjunction with a real estate agent or independent of a real estate agent. Someone may hire you to stage the home and then contact a real estate agent to list their home. So pictures are usually the responsibility of a real estate agent.
Yes.
But there's some aspects of photography that you have that an agent might not have, or even a professional photographer may not have.
Sure.
And we know that the pictures are very important when you list a home, that's where people go. They go online, they look at pictures, see something they like. If they don't see pictures of kitchens and bathrooms, that tells them sometimes they're not in good shape, and that's why there are no pictures.
That's right.
So what advice would you give to a real estate agent with respect to taking pictures?
I think you make a great point, and I think that it's important to have a picture of every room, regardless of its sort of style. You can tell a story with the pictures. You don't need a picture of every angle of every room, but you need a picture of every room so that the buyer can understand how the house is laid out and what it is that they're going to see when they come through the door. If a kitchen is not up to date, it's still important to clear the decks, make it neat, declutter, and leave maybe 3 decorative items on the counter. You know, the rule of 3 is an important one in interior design, odd numbers. So you need to take a good angle, but it's okay if it's not perfect.
Okay. Now, from the other perspective, from a buyer's perspective, and I go into a house that's staged, am I suspicious that the stager is covering up something I really should be seeing here?
No, because you want to identify any problem area. You don't throw a rug over a crack in a cement floor or a bump in a wood floor. Those things need to be disclosed, and you know, the stager understands where the line is between the stager and the agent. A stager is going to highlight repairs where an agent might highlight renovation, and that's sort of the where the twain meets.
Okay.
But never hide something.
Never hide stuff.
No.
You shouldn't. No need to be suspicious that's taking place.
No, because they're going to be cared for in the process of preparing the home for sale.
Right. So let's talk about professional. You're a professional. You put yourself out there as a professional, but the challenge is to get people to accept that. But also there's another element as well, and that is, and I had this experience hiring someone to consult with painting the interior of my house, and as soon as she came through the door and looked around, she said, well, what do you like? My first reaction to that was, well, if I knew what I liked, you wouldn't be here. So I think from my perspective, if I hire a professional of any kind, I want the truth. I want,
Right.
even if it hurts.
That's right.
Now, so are you prepared to deliver that, or is that typical of a stager?
Yes, oftentimes
news?
the stager is the bad cop in the good cop, bad cop scenario. So it gets back to the point of every house has warts, all humans have warts, and we all need to hear the tough messages, even though it's hard to hear. You can still be reverent and deliver it from you are trying to sell the most valuable asset you potentially have. You want top dollar. It means something to you. So again, it gets back to do as much as you can in the priority list to get this house up to snuff.
Now, is there a phasing? Do you meet initially with the homeowner, get some ideas, and then come back and give them the full picture?
Typically, what I do is we start where we are. We come into the house, I introduce myself and explain a little bit about what I plan to do with them during that hour or two.
So you wouldn't walk in and say, wow, look at that wallpaper, that's got to go. You
Absolutely
save
not.
that for a little later on.
Well, you want to sort of get a relationship built before you would ever critique anybody's home or personal choice. And critiquing is not what it's about. It's about selling that home. So if you try to keep the seller's eyes on that prize, it makes it easier to deliver the messages.
Okay. So now you've been with me walking through my house, and you told me you didn't like my wallpaper or my too many family pictures on the wall,
Sure.
and that I really should do something about the kitty litter, and I'm taking all this in, but now I'm wondering, what is all this going to cost me
Sure.
to stage my house to sell?
Right. So in the staging world, we break it down between an occupied staging and a vacant staging. So in your example, this is an example where people are living in the home. We would call it occupied. So,
That's usually if they're living there
well, sometimes people move out.
and leave their stuff behind.
Yeah, or vacate with their stuff, and then it turns into a different situation. But, you know, typically if I'm talking with the owner and they're living there, I explain that it's very tough to live in a staged home. Imagine trying to live in a model home without dishes in the sink, without homework on the table. It's not how we live. But when you're going to have that showing, you want to clear, you want to clear those surfaces and make it look its best. The cost, though, is what you asked about. And typically nationwide, the cost of staging is about 1% of sale. So in a $400,000 home, you can expect to spend around $4,000. And within that number, you have to prioritize what will be included. Will it include rental furniture? If that's the case, that number might go way up. It is pricey to rent furniture to make your home look great. It's tax deductible as far as we know, so it's part of selling expense.
All right, so you've told me the bad news, and it's going to cost me $4,000 or $5,000. And I tell you, Faith, I just can't afford that.
Okay.
All I can budget is $2,000. Is it still workable, or is that
Sure.
something you don't want to do? Or if you have a limited budget, where do you focus?
Well, that's when the report comes in handy, and you prioritize those items that fit within the budget. Any budget can be worked with. It's just a matter of what are the priorities. And if the home seller realizes that the amount of work that they've sort of delayed doing is going to cost more than $2,000, then they may have to reconsider that budget.
Okay. So now you've come into my house, and you've walked through my entire house, and you've really been truthful with me, and even though it hurts, you've given me lots of ideas. In fact, you've turned me around, and has it ever happened where it's given someone such great ideas and they decide they like the house and they're not going to go? Has that ever
No.
been an experience?
No, that hasn't happened.
Okay. More likely it's the other way around. Now, I had an experience about a year ago. I visited Cuba and went to Ernest Hemingway's house in Cuba. And in the bathroom of his house, there was a bookshelf and a library of books right there. And it fit in the room. It looked like it belonged, but something just wasn't right about that. Now, is that the kind of thing you run into occasionally with?
Sure.
staging?
Yes, I do. In fact, the first home I staged, the couple had decided to make their living room a dining room, and that just doesn't fly. You've got to really put the dining room table back in the dining room, potentially rent furniture for that living room if you don't have it, and showcase each room as it should be used. And if you're marketing your home as a 4-bedroom home, you need to show all 4 bedrooms as bedrooms.
Okay. All right. So, if given the current market, it's a good market, strong preference for new construction. New construction, there's a benefit to staging that.
It does, because many people, I'd say 9 out of 10, cannot visualize how to live within a space. So that's when the model home comes into play often.
Yeah, I mean, I've had builders tell me that they've heard a buyer say that the dining room is small when the builder knows it's not small. And so that's an example of putting a piece of furniture in there would help
Yes.
a prospective buyer figure things out.
Yeah, and the appropriate sized furniture, that's also important. Oftentimes today, the furniture that is in stores is enormous, and you might have a huge dining room table in a very small dining room, and that also doesn't really highlight the home in its best way, in its best light. So, but to showcase a home in what is sort of perceived as a small dining room, and you still have 6 or 8 chairs around, that's ample for most families.
Yep, solves the problem before it arises.
That's
sort
right.
of. Okay, so new construction, if the houses are being pre-sold, maybe there's no need for staging. Someone who's clearly in the market for a specific home, whether it's a contemporary or an antique, may not need staging, but the vast majority of homes that are on the market are homes that were 30, 40, 50 years old, and so they do need some help.
Right.
Is that really a big portion of the staging market?
Yes, that's the real sweet spot in this area in particular, because many of the neighborhoods, particularly in Acton, were built in the 50s and 60s. So, and as New Englanders, we live in our homes typically for 30, 40, 50 years. And as you know, things accumulate in corners. So for the best staging, bang for your buck, you want to really listen to that stager. Organize your home, declutter, clean it out, pack up the valuables, and put it on the market.
Okay, so the first step might be to rent a container, put it in the driveway, and load everything up, and then start bringing things back into the house, maybe?
Well, I think the stager can tell you. I've gone through many times and put stickies on what should go and what should stay. You never know how you can repurpose a particular piece of furniture.
Okay. So I watch a lot of HGTV, and the first thing that they do when they remodel a house is open it up. That seems to be the big feature now in certainly newer homes, and trying to do that to older homes. That's not really practical in many older homes that are on the market, although it might be a good idea. Are there some staging tricks to get people to thinking this may look a lot better if these walls were down?
Well, you can have renderings made. I've also drawn physical room flow for different families. You have to have an understanding of what walls are load-bearing, and so that gets beyond kind of an aesthetic that a stager would be involved with. Even though the particular stager may know what wall is load-bearing or not, it's really not within their professional purview to indicate that.
Right, and you don't really want to go there, although you might recommend to somebody that they consult with an architect and
Exactly.
go down that road.
And then you want to have really good room flow so that the client can see, oh, well, if I just remove that wall, that opens up the kitchen to the dining to the living. And if it's not cluttered with a lot of stuff, they can see past the current impediment, which might be a wall, and get a sense of how they could use the space.
Okay, so has you ever been, I'm sure you have been, called in to stage a home that's been on the market for a while and hasn't sold, and now they're thinking, maybe I do need to stage this?
Yes, absolutely. And I have done that.
And is there other issues with that? Is it because at that point a home seller has gotten feedback from prospective
Right.
Buyers, from real estate agents, relative to the deficits
Right.
in the house, and now you've got to sort that out as part of your staging.
That's right. And buyers don't sugarcoat their feedback. And so some of those messages are tough to deliver, I'm sure, for agents. But again, if you want to sell that asset and move on to the next chapter in your life, you've got to listen to that feedback. So based on the feedback from the buyers and what the agents have to say, we sit down and formulate what would be the best plan for that particular home.
Okay. Can you tell us what a challenging home that you faced with?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing too is that every home is different. You apply, as we've talked about in the past, the same staging principles, but I can think of one home in particular where it was nearly hoarded. It was a single parent, and he had just sent his last child off to college. And I'm telling you what, there were more boxes in there than a moving company might have. And between the teaming with the agent and myself, we got this seller to really buy into our plan And I think his assessed value was something like $399, and his first offer was $489.
So it was very worthwhile.
Very
to do that.
worthwhile, yes.
So do you make, you just made me think of this, do you make, if a homeowner says, fine, I'd like to declutter, I really don't need these things, you help them make connections with ways in which they can get rid of that stuff?
Yes, absolutely. We have contacts, and that's another reason to hire an agent and a stager is, you know, we work day in and day out with painters, carpet people, movers, people who have storage facilities. So we have those contacts. If you're just a one-off home seller, you may not have all those people in place. So we can, you know, bring those service providers to the seller.
Right. So I know, speaking personally, I know it's something that is broken, it's easy to throw out, but something that you just don't need anymore, but it's got life left in it, and it's been sitting in that corner forever.
Right.
It becomes more of a challenge. What do I do with that? I don't want to just throw it away, and you could help
That's right.
in that situation.
That's right. We have those contacts.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So it sounds like what we're really getting at is first impressions and getting people to buy into a house. Any last words of advice along those lines?
Just don't hesitate. Jump in with both feet, hire a professional agent and a professional stager.
Okay, and that'll do the trick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
well priced and well staged is a great winning equation.
Okay, great. Well, you've been helpful.
Thank you, Victor.
Thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Okay, and that's our show for today. Thanks for watching.